So we are going to officially start the meeting at 9 o'clock. I want to thank everybody for showing up today. This is our June community partnership meeting, and as people know, June and December are earmarked for our legislators to come and share with us. We also know that they've been very busy, and we don't have any with us today. So we're gonna change up the format a little bit, and historically some people have been in one of these meetings where we've done like a getting to know each other. So I think that's what we'll go ahead and do, and then also it'll provide opportunity to share more intensive updates about what your organization is doing, any events, any new programs, because oftentimes when we have our presenters, we run over, which is wonderful. And then we don't really get a chance to share like interpersonally what's going on with our organizations. So I'm gonna add an extra curveball in today. We'll do the intros as we usually do, so name, organization, role. We're definitely gonna have something you're grateful for. And then if you could also go on to say a brief overview of any new updates from your program. If there's nothing really new, even if it's an elevator speech about your programs and the work that you all do. So if there's any people who are new here and trying to get familiar, they might hear Turning Point but not really know what does Turning Point do, right? So this is going to be a great opportunity for us to connect on a deeper level, make the best use of our time, and there's a chance we might end up getting out early, and it's gorgeous outside. So I think, as Kristen used to say, we may have the gift of time at the end. So I'm going to start with people on Zoom. So again, we're going to do, and I'll put this in the chat as well.
Can I make one suggestion too, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Since all these meetings are online, maybe perhaps if people have certain things that they want the legislators to get back to them on, you can make sure one to like either say it in this meeting, or maybe a better avenue would be to like email the Franklin Grand Island Community Partnership Group, and we can bring that back or help connect you with someone. But maybe it's totally your call, but I was just thinking.
I love that. Perfect. So I'm just going to put that in the chat as well. Organization. So any messaging or questions for legislators. All right. So I'm putting that in the chat, and I'm going to start with people on chat first, or on chat, yeah, on Zoom first. So I will start with my dear friend Jess Spike. You are the first one in the Hollywood Square to be called on.
So exciting. Hi everyone, my name's Jess. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, thanks Melinda and everyone for being here. I am the account manager and a few other hats for Champlain Toxicology Lab. We are a clinical laboratory. The main lab is positioned in Plattsburgh. We do routine urine drug testing, oral fluid testing, as well as umbilical cord testing. We have a patient service center located in Burlington. We've really expanded the past couple of years. We are an option for the University of Vermont Health Network, which includes all the laboratories and the primary care offices throughout New York and Vermont. We also are positioned with NECLA, which is the Northeastern Clinical Laboratory Alliance. So we do a lot of the hospital testing in Southern New York as well as substance use disorder treatment programs, nonprofit organizations, and residential treatment programs throughout Vermont. We are, about half of us live in Vermont and the other half in New York. We're really trying to dig into the community and see the services that we can develop to make sure we're most useful to those who are using drug testing. Personal background, I am in recovery myself. I used to work at the Howard Center Acton Bridge program, and we utilized drug testing there. I moved over to Burlington Labs when that started, and came over to Champlain Toxicology Lab a few years ago. Let me think. So I'm really looking, we do a lot of remote telecollection services for people specifically in Franklin County. We're looking to possibly implement a patient service center. We're just trying to figure out what that would look like, best hours, whatever. If anybody has any questions about drug testing, whether or not we service your account or not, we're happy just to be a local resource because it can be a heavy load. We've attended a lot of conferences lately, and we're noticing that there's a lot of what are they called? Student assistants, the people placed inside of schools that are reaching out on behalf of parents. If parents have questions about like dipstick cups and things that they do at home and just want to know some of the benefits and limitations of all the different types of testing, we're just happy to kind of be a resource for individuals and just be present and be available. So that's my spiel.
Thank you so much, Jess. And I do see that Representative Walker has shown up, which is so exciting. Matt, you are the rock star of this meeting. So we'll continue doing our introductions and still feel free to give a brief overview. I think we'll time it at no more than about 2 minutes per person. So again, name, organization, role, brief overview, and then something you're grateful for. So I will go to Megan next, Megan Bridges.
Good morning, everyone. Megan Bridges, Director of Partner and Volunteer Engagement at United Way of Northwest Vermont. And we cover Chittenden, Franklin, and Grand Isle counties, but we also have a statewide program, Common Good Vermont, which supports all nonprofits in our state. We raise funds, we give out funds, we advocate on behalf of the nonprofit sector, we mobilize volunteers, we have an AmeriCorps Senior program. You may be familiar with the Bone Builders program, which we have volunteers across all 3 counties, 38 sites, offering free classes to folks for osteoporosis prevention, but also social connection. Hugely impactful program that you're going to be hearing more and more about as we try to grow it. We also do prevention work. We are the lead prevention organization for Division of Substance Use, Department of Health Division of Substance Use. That takes us across 4 counties, so our 3 counties plus Washington County. We have the Working Bridges program, where resource coordinators are embedded at workplaces. Over 30 work, at least 30, right? It's growing. I know I've forgotten stuff. We're a complex organization. There's so much happening. I do want to point out that we also act as fiscal sponsor for a couple of different programs. And so the most recent news we have is that we are acting as the fiscal sponsor for the Vermont Immigration Legal Defense Fund, which is hoping to raise $1 million for the Vermont Asylum Assistance Project. And see in our news on the website if you want to learn more about what's happening with that work. We 28 people do all of this work, which is pretty amazing, and I am grateful for my colleagues and how we partner with all of you in lots of different ways.
Awesome, thank you so much, Megan. Lex.
Forgot to unmute. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lex Arthurs. I am from the Vermont Foundation of Recovery, also known as V4. We are a network of recovery homes, sober homes, across the state of Vermont. Right now we have 9. We also additionally have transitional apartments in many regions, state, and our program is constantly growing. We are hoping to open a new home in Essex very, very soon, wrapping up the last few pieces there, which will add 10 extra beds to our program. Right now we have 56 in the homes and 13 in transitional living apartments for a total of 69 beds. I am very grateful for the sun and for this funny looking little kitty sitting in my lap today.
We need to know the cat's name.
Yoda.
His name is Remus from Harry Potter because he looks like a little werewolf. in my personal opinion. We are also, quick little plug, I know everyone is hiring, I know it's a tough time for it. We are also hiring, we are looking for a men's regional manager to help, or actually my colleague Candace is sitting right there. I want to say it's regional manager, it's a statewide position. I could be flubbing that up. She will fix that for me in her intro if I have said the wrong title, but we are hiring. And they are posted on our website as well as our Facebook. And if anyone knows anyone, please send them our way. We'd love to connect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lex. Stephanie.
Morning, I am Stephanie Comstock. I'm the Director of the Basic Needs Programs in St. Albans for Spectrum Youth and Family Services. I run the drop-in center for homeless and at-risk youth on Lake Street. We provide basic needs to youth who are struggling and also wear two hats and kind of function as a youth center as well. So you don't have to be struggling with your basic needs to come hang out with the awesome folks at Spectrum. So we work with youth ages 12 through 24. And the most exciting news that I have for an update is that we are so close to construction being complete on the shelter. We have a completion date of the 13th from the contractor, though I try not to hold my breath because we all know how construction goes. But I have the state inspector coming next week, and that just means we are getting so very close. We will be doing a joint event with CHT for like a grand opening, give some folks some tours. So I will send the flyer to the community partnership email, so keep your eyes peeled for that, along with like the referral process and any additional information. So I'll be passing that along as soon as I know it. And today I am grateful that my dear friend had her baby just over an hour ago and is already sending me pictures. So that made my day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And we have another legislator online as well, Representative Gueguer. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to shorten the introduction time just a little bit more and say now let's make it to a brief minute to minute and 15 seconds. So again, just introduction, quick overview, and then something you're grateful for. Mariah.
So before Mariah goes, I am going to jump in. I invited Mariah and Bianca to join today. They are my sister coalition. They're the Burlington Partnership for Healthy Community. And as Caring Communities is in a transition stage, Burlington's going to step in and do a little bit of the top level kind of stuff so that we make sure that we have some activity in alcohol and other substance use prevention. So I wanted them to meet everybody. I wanted everybody to meet them. And so now I will let Mariah introduce herself. I'll be introducing her to a lot of folks and the partners in the community just so that we can get some more work done. Sorry, Mariah, go.
Thank you so much, Amy. It's nice to see all your faces. And so yes, Amy started us off, but we're very grateful to the United Way, who's been paying attention to what the prevention needs are for the larger region. And I know that in the Franklin Grand Isle area, there's some challenges with the capacity and resources to support the community level prevention. We had a need in our area to fill a funding gap, and so it kind of was good timing for us to see what can we do to support you while we're trying to work through our funding gap as well. So really I'm really just here to listen today and hear what's going on for folks, and then hopefully you'll and kind of show my face, and Bianca too, because you'll be getting emails and contacts from us trying to reach out to you, a lot of you hopefully, to set up a time to sit down and chat with each other. And if there's any community meetings that it would be helpful for us to be at, or places where we should get to know the community get better, if there's events going on where you think we'd better understand what the needs are, please invite us. I'll put my email in the chat. I think Bianca has also. But really, I'm hoping that we can just be a resource for whatever Franklin Grand Isle needs. And at the end, I'm hoping that we're contracted, I should say, to put together a report to kind of let you know what we learned and hopefully share as much as we can about what can help build capacity in the region.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for putting your email in the chat. That way we can keep you in the loop.
It's our first
And
meeting.
welcome. This is your first meeting. Thank you for joining us. Tracy.
Hello, my name is Tracy Thomason, and I am the Director of Operations for Savita Health for both Vermont and New Hampshire. We do MAT services for Suboxone. We are part of the Blueprint. I am grateful for my grandbabies coming. My daughter is 26 weeks pregnant and very healthy. And my other daughter just spent some time with her soon-to-be adopted baby number 2. So hoping by the end of the year, we will go from 1 to 3 grandkids. News for Savita, we are so excited to be sponsoring, number 1 sponsor actually for the Coming Together event this summer, August 1st. So I'm really glad with all the changes that we can still do that. We have 8 centers in Vermont from St. Albans and Newport all the way down to Bennington, and we are opening up a satellite Bellows Fall to fill up the hole that North Star left when they unfortunately had to close up there. Did I do it in a minute?
You did beautifully. Thank you so much, Tracy. And a big thank you to Savita for being our platinum sponsor for the 2nd year in a row. We appreciate that. Thank you, Danielle.
Hi, I'm Danielle Perry. I am an advocate with Voices Against Violence. My main role is transitional housing coordinator, but I wear a couple different hats, one of them being a shelter coordinator for our new shelter space, Safe Roots Healing Collective in St. Albans, which is one of our 3 service sites. We also have Lori's House, and we have All About Kids, which is a supervised visitation center in St. Albans. Voices is an sexual and domestic violence agency serving Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Something I am grateful for is the creamy stands being open earlier in the day, so I can substitute my lunch every now and then with a creamy instead of an actual meal.
I think we're sisters. Thank you so much. Bianca.
Hi everyone, thank you for having us here today with you. My name is Bianca. I'm Associate Director for Burlington Partnership. I work closely with Mariah. Thank you, Amy, for the introduction. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm here to learn from all of you. Some of you I have already met. Some of you recently. Hi, Jess. We met at the conference recently. It's great to meet you all. So if you have any questions, or as Mariah has shared, if you have any recommendations of where we should participate or join in, I'd love to hear those. Anything that you can share with us would be immensely appreciated. Thank you for all that you do. You guys are amazing, and thanks for showing up every day. And I'm grateful for my 6-year-old daughter. She's an absolute treasure of mine.
Aw, thank you, Bianca. Randy. Oh, and hold on. Welcome, Bianca, for your first meeting. We give you the applause and the bell. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Randy Allen. I'm a recovery coach here at Turning Point, Franklin County. And I'm very grateful that I get to spend the last 2 days of my vacation last weekend with both granddaughters at big events. And that's something I didn't get to do a year ago. So I'm very grateful that I get to do these things. And also grateful that I get to work with Melinda.
I paid him well to say that. Thank you, Randy. Good to see you. Brittany.
Good morning, I'm Brittany. I'm the military One Source State Consultant for Vermont. And this morning I am grateful that actually school is coming to an end and my kids' activities are dwindling and I'm not spending as much time in the car as normal. So yes, that is what I'm grateful for. A little bit of free time back.
Awesome, thank you. I see Jay Brady, but I don't know your first name because it's not listed.
Hi, I'm Jillian. Sorry about that.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you for having me. So I'm Jillian Brady. I am the Associate Director of Volunteer Services at Age Well. Age Well is Vermont's largest area agency on aging. We serve all of Addison, Franklin, Grand Isle, and Chittenden counties, supporting older Vermonters living in their homes and connecting them with services. I am specifically in the volunteer department and manage the day-to-day operations. Whether that's recruiting, onboarding, training, matching volunteers, getting to speak with clients, supporting Meals on Wheels, and supporting my team. And I am grateful for my daughters.
Aw. Wonderful. And is this your first meeting?
It is, yes.
Thank you for joining us. And if you could put your email address in the chat, that would be fantastic, so we can add you to communications. Wonderful. Thank you. Denise.
Hello, I am Denise. I'm a CCV student, also peer mentor for St. Albans here. I also give information out to all the other peer mentors for CCV. I'm grateful for the warm weather and school ending.
Awesome. And is this your first meeting with us or no?
No, I've been to several meetings.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to double check. Okay, so I do have your email address. Beautiful. Thank you, my dear. Welcome. Kate.
Hi, I am Kate Bluen. I am the Choices for Care Nurse for Franklin and Grand Isle County, and I guess the quickest way to describe that is I help people age in place in home or in community settings. And then I'm the Executive Director of Hope Grove Recovery, which is going to be opening a recovery house for women, a level 3 recovery house in Franklin County, specifically in St. Albans City, hopefully before the end of this year.
Yay.
Awesome. And I'm grateful for, sorry I forgot that, I'm grateful for doing the CBO WEO Walk in Your Shoes event. It was really nice. I'm in a lot of meetings with a lot of people in a lot of different places, but to be able to walk and talk, there's something very special about that, and being able to see what we have in our community as a group was a really wonderful experience. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate. And I'm going to pause before I go to our legislators, because once we're done intros, we're going to give them the rest of the meeting. And I'm going to come to the room and ask Michelle to kick us off.
Good morning, everyone. Michelle Trea. I work here at NCSS in the Parent-Child Center program, where we have multiple teams. We house the Children's Integrated Services Early Intervention for Franklin, Grand Isle, and Chittenden counties. We also have our Early Childhood and Family Mental Health, along with our HEART program, which is for expectant parents and for parents with infants up to the age of 1. We also house the Child Care Financial Assistance team, which actually I'm on, except for I do something different than everybody else on the team. I'm the Family Access Coordinator, so I take care of the concrete supports, from diapers, wipes, formula, gift cards, help with utilities, those sorts of pieces, and we also partner with 15 of the region's libraries, so that they give out diapers and wipes as well. And we also help fund children's activities at these libraries. So that's exciting for us to do. For the last 20 years, I've also run the St. Albans City Fire Department car seat station. And our new initiative is I will be opening one with my friend Ann in Alberg this month. So excited about that. And my grateful for today is I've been really worried about something and it was fine. My 13-year-old car passed inspection with no hiccups this morning.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Amy Brewer. I'm the health educator at Northwestern Medical Center, and I coordinate the Franklin Grand Isle Tobacco Prevention Coalition. I work on tobacco control and a little bit of transportation, and I poke at cancer control and all those kinds of fun things. Butt litter cleanup is coming this summer. I will send out the schedule. And I'm grateful for, I had the opportunity to go on a hiking trip with a couple friends of mine last week, and it was amazing.
Good morning, I am Faith Dubois. I'm the admin assistant for St. Paul's United Methodist Church. So yes, Faith is representing the faith community. And I love being connected with this group because it gives me an opportunity to share out like the flyers and stuff with our church community. And also to know it's available for people because we do get inquiries into social service type questions at the church quite a bit. And we actually are hosting twice a week bone builders classes at the church, the ones that Megan was talking about. So our pastor, Preston Fuller, is very involved in social issues, and I appreciate that. Driving in this morning, I was listening to NPR and realizing that I am grateful that I was raised on Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers.
Morning, Michelle Bissett, Advocate Outreach Coordinator at the Abenaki Missisquoi Domestic Violence. Happy for my grandkids.
My name is Candace Gale. I'm the Director of Community Relations for Vermont Foundation of Recovery. Apologize, I'm losing my voice. As Lex mentioned, we run 9 recovery homes throughout Vermont. We will be opening our Essex recovery home for women at the end of this month. So we'll have 79 beds throughout the state, which is super exciting. And looking to grow into Addison County next for a new women's home. We are looking for a regional manager to support our men's homes throughout the state, which Lex had mentioned. And then we're also building a new model within V4 to support couples that are going through recovery together. So, they'll start in our recovery home separately and then come together in our transitional apartments. So we'll be talking about that model in the next couple of months. I am grateful for the finally sunny weather, which I know is going away for a couple of days. But while we had it, it was amazing. And so very grateful for that and for everybody in this room.
Hi, my name's Marissa Darling, she, her pronouns. I work for the state in Office of Economic Opportunity with the new Permanent Supportive Housing Assistance Program, which leverages Medicaid to pay for the service providing. And I will be working with Chittenden and Franklin, Grand Isle counties. And it's CBOEO. Is the one that will have the direct service staff here. Oh, and I love the weather. All right. Talked about that.
And this is your first meeting, so welcome. Grateful you're with us.
Good morning, I'm Charlene Cayano. I'm the Vermont Veterans Mental Health Counselor. I'm a non-medical counselor, so I travel the entire state helping our veterans and their family at no cost. And I'm grateful for my son is graduating from high school and moving on to bigger and better things.
Awesome. Yay, and welcome Charlene. This is your first meeting too. Thank you for joining us.
I'm John Gordon, Sheldon United Methodist Church Food Shelf. We serve about 400 families a month, about probably between 11 and 1,200 people, distribute about 25,000 pounds of food a month. The last couple of months, starting in February, I became the seniors commodities box distributor. And this month I had 72 seniors receiving commodity boxes, about 35 pounds of food a box. So that's an extra about 3,000 pounds of food a month coming into my facility and going back out. And I have been officially accepted as a distribution site, non-congregate meal distribution site for summer meals. So starting on June 20th, which also happens to be my 54th wedding anniversary, my wife and I celebrate, I will be distributing boxes of food. It's 14 meals, 7 breakfasts and 7 lunches. And right now I anticipate somewhere in the range of 150 to 200 children will be hitting those boxes at my food shelf. So.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you, John.
Big news.
Where is the food shelf?
In Sheldon Creek, right across the creek from the town clerk's office, right above, up on the hill above the Sheldon Historical Society Museum. It's 45 Church Street.
45 Church.
Right beside the church.
And I saw that Angie was able to join us. So Angie, we're just doing intros. If you want to say your name, organization, role, something that you're grateful for, we'll go to you next on Zoom.
My name is Angie White. I'm a senior nurse case manager for the Agency of Human Services VCCI program, and I apologize coming in just now, but I had competing meetings, so nice to see everyone this morning.
Thank you for being here, Angie. And I just want to give a shout out to Dennis with Northwest Access TV. We want to thank you for coming here to cover. They've been loyal to us for years now. And then I'll turn it over to Danielle.
Awesome. Hey everyone, good morning. My name is Danielle Roberts. I'm the Director of Community Relations here at NCSS. Working with Michelle, there's a lot of different programs here geared towards the mental and physical well-being of the, community members of Franklin and Grand Isle, plus some Chittenden County. And I'm really grateful. I'm going to be hitting my first year, and this was a year of learning. And it was really nice to meet a lot of people who are positive and passionate in the work that they do. So, like Randy said, I'm grateful to get to work with Melinda. I'm grateful to get to see Amy once a month. I'm grateful to get to work with Michelle and John and to meet people, every month coming to this meeting. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And I think I just saw Sadara just showed up. Sadara, I just want to give you a chance to do an introduction. We're saying our name, organization, role, and then something that you're grateful for.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sadara. I'm one of the nurse care coordinators at the Notch in St. Albans. And I am grateful that the weather's nicer. I can put my garden in. I'm so excited.
Awesome. Thank you, Sadara. And my name is Melinda White, Recovery Coach Supervisor in the Emergency Department and Vermont Blueprint Mat Lead, and on a few different boards, the VTAR Board, Vermont Alliance for Recovery Residences, and Vice Chair of the Police Advisory Board, and a few others that I don't need to go through. And I am very grateful for the partnership around our Substance Use Addiction Summit, the Coming Together Summit, which is shameless plug, Friday, August 1st at the Champlain Valley Expo. We've got a large volume of people registered for the no-charge booths. Encourage anybody to reach out to your community partners. If your organization hasn't registered yet, definitely we'd love you to do that. There's no charge to hosting the booth. And also feel free to invite any partners. It can be a one-person operation. We've got some small nonprofits that it's one person, and then we've got some that are very large organizations. And we have organizations coming from not just the state of Vermont, but New England. So would love to see as many of you as possible there. And then I'm also grateful for my coworkers and colleagues in this area. So I'm gonna ask now if we can entertain a motion for the meeting minutes so we can get that piece out of the way and use the rest of the time for our legislators. So it was in the meeting packet. Thank you, John. And do we have a second?
I can second.
Awesome, thank you, Michelle. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we're gonna turn it over to our legislators. We're so grateful that you guys were able to join us today. We know that you were very busy, so your time is extremely valuable, and the fact that you made it to this meeting is huge. So I will start first with Representative Matt Walker.
Good morning, Melinda. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Good to see you, Matt.
Good to see you again. Well, we're not adjourned yet. I guess I would start there. Friday, we went till basically midnight, and you're probably...
This meeting is being recorded.
Education is still in the works, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. For all of you that don't know, my name is Matt Walker. I represent Swanton and Sheldon in the legislature. This is my second term, second full term. I started my fourth year. I had served a small portion to fill in a term before that. I was appointed to be the chair of the House Transportation Committee this year. There are only 2 Republican chairs in the 14 committees in the House, so I'm pretty proud of working closely with the Democratic leadership that they felt that I could handle that position in that environment. So I spent most of my legislative session working on transportation issues, particularly the transportation budget and bill, which is about an $864 million. And then we also do an omnibus motor vehicles bill, which is the second half of the session. We are back at work. My wife and I own JC Image and run the business in St. Albans. I think this is our 15th year or something like that. We have 9 employees down at Walnut Street. And so having the session run 3 weeks past last year's session puts into our busiest time of the year. So it puts a real crimp in things. It makes it hard to balance, but also a reminder that sort of Vermont, what I'm thankful for, what I'm grateful for today is a reminder sort of Vermont is a human scale. I've run into a lot of you wherever you are in the community where we run back and forth, and that also the people that represent you in Montpelier are real actual citizens and in the community and in work and making things happen, and Vermont is one of the places that still has human scale and human touch and relationship. So that's what I'm grateful for, and that's my role both in the legislature and here in the community.
Thank you so much, Matt. Please give Patty Jo a hug for me. And then I'm gonna call on Representative James Gregoire.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Greetings. I'm in my car because I'm running errands between here and there. As Matt said, the session's gone way long, and it's been for anybody that owns a business like Matt and I and some others, it's been very challenging because now we're playing catch up, and we have partners who are not very happy with us. But there are other legislators who are out of town, had plans for travel after the session, and so we apologize on behalf of everybody who can't make it. As Matt said, the session has run long. Several of Franklin County legislators, including myself and Matt, are in leadership roles, chairs, vice chairs. We're very fortunate to have them, to be looked upon as the kind of people that can be worked with by the majority. You don't get those positions if you're looked at as somebody who, just isn't willing to work together. And we definitely work very hard in Franklin County to be the people that everybody looks to as team players and open-minded. So we're very happy about that. It comes with extra work, of course, but that's a good thing. In my committee, we deal with the capital bill and corrections policy. So 2 very different items. Capital bill is simply, construction and renovations and stuff like that for state buildings, upkeep. So there's nothing too sexy about that issue. But then you have corrections, which has a lot more of a human touch, both dealing with inmates, and the problems or the issues that affect them, but also the guards and stuff like that. So that's what we do. For thanks, I usually I'm thankful to wake up in the morning. That's always a good thing. Not thankful to hear about people eating creamies when I'm over here suffering with berries. I'm like on day 2 of trying to lose legislative weight, and I'm eating berries and chicken breasts. But I am what I'm really thankful for is a lot of people don't know this, but I had a little grandbaby on January 6th. He was an emergency, 1.84 pounds, and he spent 3 months in ICU, and he's been home for 2 months, roughly, and he's doing great. It didn't look like that at first, so that's something to be really thankful for, and something that always keeps me, grounded in what we're actually here for. Is for our children, which are the future, and so anything we do should be looking at how we're making life better for future generations, and not necessarily how it can be easier for us. Okay, so that's pretty much what I have, and I'm going to turn my camera off because I'm going to be in public.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I think at this juncture, we would just want to give you guys a chance to share and I know, the session's not over, but any updates or highlights with everyone, and then we'll open the floor for questions for you all. So I'll start with you, Matt.
Well, thanks, Melinda. I guess I also want to quickly mention that James is the Franklin County Delegation Chair and has organized all of the legislative breakfasts that a number of you have attended throughout the course of the session. He also has organized multiple meetings with NMC with all the healthcare related issues and has been in constant communication along with several of the other members of the delegation that work much more closely in the healthcare industry and whatnot. So James has done a ton of work to make sure that the delegation was informed and up to speed and working on issues related to NMC. That's not an area that I spend a lot of time in. For those of you that don't know, that maybe you do, that the House is divided up amongst those 14 committees, and areas of expertise, the areas of concentration are spent that way. So unless you are working on a particular issue near to one of your constituents or pieces, you spend a lot of your time in your particular subject area. So I probably won't be able to answer a whole lot of questions on the medical side. James has spent some time in the previous committee assignment and a lot of time with the NMC. So he probably can help in that area. Overall, everybody knows that we headed into the session with education reform, housing, and public safety were the three sort of biggest topics of coming out of last fall's elections. I would say that education is still the number one topic, and as we mentioned, the conference committee, the housing bills, the conference committee on education is still meeting in Montpelier and still be working over the next couple of weeks. The issue of drawing district lines, trying to deal with class sizes, trying to deal with the funding, trying to deal with the pupil cost. There's a huge amount of issues related to it, and that'll continue to go on for I imagine you'll see updates every couple of days for the next 2 to 3 weeks. That's a huge statewide impact. Closely tied with that, I would also say that the healthcare and healthcare expenses, which are driving a huge part of these education expenses, and especially related to obviously our personnel, that hand in hand, I think that medical coverage and cost and expenses of the entire industry is something that is an anchor for the entire state and probably the country. Every workplace, employment, and peace, and how difficult it is for people to afford and to have access to high quality care and to afford it. I think that when we move to the next session, healthcare and education will be 1 and 1A as we move to next year, when people really realize what a major factor that is on everything that we do. So education is the number one issue facing the state and the legislature in terms of reorganization. Housing, there was a lot of progress in the last bit of the legislature, a lot of work. You're going to see where TIF, which St. Albans City is sort of St. Albans has taken a huge advantage of the TIF program over the years. There's a new program called CHIP, and that's really focused more on building housing and getting the infrastructure through sewer, water, utilities, and work that needs to be done to be able to build housing of all levels and types of housing across the whole state. And that deal was really reached at the 11th hour after a whole session of work. Public safety wasn't talked about nearly as much and hasn't been in the news nearly as often, which is probably a good thing because we hear about that the most when things are going poorly. But there was not a significant amount of legislation done, anything major changes in that arena. I'm hoping James will rescue me at any point. But as I mentioned, I spent most of my time in the transportation-related piece. One of the biggest things that we did in the transportation bill this year that is relevant to what a lot of you in the room do is related to medical transport. There is a piece carved out on one-time money that is about $750,000 or $750,000 to really look at volunteer driver coordination and volunteer driver recruitment. It really you've got a lot going on with services at North Country Hospital, at NMC Hospital, every hospital, Gifford, all throughout the state where services are changing, what can be afforded, what can't, and the need for transport is always getting higher. There's only less than 200 medical transport volunteers left in the post-COVID world. There's over 1,100 Meals on Wheels drivers out there. The coordination, the issues it takes to become a volunteer, or perhaps the education piece to make sure that people are aware of that. There's a lot of people out there willing to help, and this program that we put into the T-bill this year is to go out and find a way to help coordinate and to find more drivers and volunteers to get people to and from their appointments and pieces, because obviously there's a lot of people out there that want to help and either don't know how, or the background process, or the procedure, or the education piece is an issue. So we have put at least some starting money and effort around coordinators, combining with our public transit and rural transit and our Medicaid transit, medical transport, to finding how do we make more of those 1,100 Meals on Wheels volunteers become medical transport people, because we have not gotten back over 200 since in the post-COVID world. I could go on about a whole lot of other things. That one in particular, it's home in related to the field that you all work in.
Thank you so much, Matt. I'm going to give Representative Gregoire a chance now to give us any overviews that you're able to, and we understand if you can't put your camera on, and also if it's a hardship to talk to us, let us know. We want you safe on the road.
No, I decided to stay parked. So, anyways, first I'm going to change what I'm thankful about, even though I'm thankful about my little baby. I'm thankful that Matt went first, because usually in meetings I have to go first and then lay everything out. And Matt did such a good job. But so different committees, as Matt said, we deal with different issues. So my committee, we did deal with public safety a little bit, but from the correction side, so we dealt with what the ramifications are, and we do work with oh my goodness gracious. Judiciary and policy about things that can combine between the judiciary and corrections, but it wasn't the top priority. But the legislative leadership said from the beginning when we started this session that it was not going to be a year filled with a lot of issues, that they really wanted to focus on the key issues, and education being the top one. I think there's a lot of disappointment in the population as well as in the legislature that the first month and a half, maybe very little was done on the education bill, and then all of a sudden it popped off, and then it went to the Senate after the House was done, and the Senate worked for 3 or 4 weeks, and basically the plan that they came up with wasn't supported by the governor or the House, and then obviously went to conference committee, which it did not be the way they were not successful last week in coming to an agreement. So we'll see if in the next week or so that they come to an agreement. I'm not sure that they will, or one that everybody or enough people are going to be happy with. Of course, it's an issue that's very emotion based, as well as there's facts, but people get very emotional about certain things, and education is one of them. So how are we going to make everybody happy, but also have policy that actually works? So that's something to keep an eye on. Matt also alluded to the hospital. We work very closely. We're very fortunate to have a good relationship with the leadership team at the hospital, Peter and Jonathan, and also with UVMMC. We've had meetings with them, especially back in December and early January when the dialysis issue was still on the table. So we reached out and worked with them. We worked with other entities in the county to try to get support at the legislative level. So there's a lot of issues out there, and as Matt said, we're very siloed. We try to work with each other, talk to each other to keep our hands on the pulse, so fingers on the pulse of what other committees are doing, what other issues. But you do spend a lot of time in your own committee or in your own little hallway, where you don't necessarily have every single bill isn't in the back of your head, which is, it's very hard to do out of, 500-600 bills. But, so I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, James. I did see in the chat, a question. Let me just pull that back up. So Lex was asking if there was any funding put in place to continue the Recovery and Job Access Transportation Program this year. I think it was also termed Rides for Recovery at one point too, but if either one of you are aware of that program.
I am not, but maybe Matt is, and we can find out for sure.
You're muted, Matt.
Maybe.
I was looking up, kind of looking up this Recovery and Job Access Rides program because I don't recall that on our review of the budget piece, but I know it's something that was started back in 2018 and went up through 2022, but I don't believe, I'm not familiar with it, and I was trying to look it up. I'm not familiar that that there was a request for funds on, at least not in the transportation bill this year. I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. Some like GMT is still holding out, like some places you can still call and ask, but I was just curious and a little hopeful. Thank you very much.
Transport. I'm just reading, I'm sorry, I'm reading a little bit more of the details on that.
I love it. If it could ever come back, we'd be happy to do it. Medicaid transport is fantastic. So is non-emergent, non-medical transport. But this was really, really helpful, specifically for our population, because a lot of the different things that you need for recovery are not covered under Medicaid rides. So this is really wonderful, connecting to treatment supports, peer recovery coaches, even things like going to treatment court. A lot of the times in my past lives, we weren't able to access those rides, but we were able to through this program. And it also gave a lot more flexibility. So just my plug there, if it ever wants to come back, if you ever happen to have some extra money lying around.
I love that plug.
We'd love to have it. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Well, it's gonna be a little funny, I guess, I'll throw it out there that, as a chair now, I guess, I will send a quick email off and ask for an update on that, and now I'll get an answer probably before lunch. Whereas in the past, if I had sent an email, I might get an answer, next week or later this week. I would always get an answer, but it's amazing how much quicker I get an answer now in those areas of transportation than I did before this session. So I can get an update in that piece, and I find that to a very nice benefit of this position. I get much quicker answers. So I did see that when I was reading there real quick, RCT is on that, rural community transportation. It is something that's going to, maybe opening up a can of worms for this area, but the public transportation in the state goes through a review every year. Every year they review. It's very hard to provide level of public transit in a rural state. By every review, every conference that our agency people attend, that Vermont ranks at the high level of public transit that's provided related to rural states. Sort of like we have in almost everything, we try to provide a boutique level of service when we have no economy of scale, and it makes everything very expensive. We do have, in this particular year, it's like $53 million that we're spending on public transportation, all urban and rural put together. And we have sort of a network of an urban provider in Green Mountain Transport and a whole network of rural providers throughout the state. And we are moving, the agency is moving through in their review, very likely that Green Mountain Transit will probably be giving up the service of Franklin County, and RCT will be taking over in Franklin County, sort of on what they do up in the Northeast Kingdom. And Green Mountain Transit will focus on their rural routes as well as their commuter route out of Richford and the one out of Grand Isle down into Burlington. There'll probably be some changes in that piece. It doesn't mean that it has to happen, but that's part of the review that is going on. We did the testimony from RCT on what they were doing up in Orleans, and the feedback was phenomenal. And the use of technology and AI and their dispatching and the way they map out not only all of the rides that are being asked, but all the rides that historically have been done, and the way that their new technology and that they can use to make things happen and to give more rides at a more efficient rate is something that I was very impressed to see, and that knowing how important it is to that service level in Franklin County, I would be very confident to say that that the level of service would at the very least stay the same, if not increase. They have more flexibility in vehicles, vehicle type, sizes, and drivers, and they have technology that is more flexible and newer. And even on transit has their very strong, very big strengths that they can provide. And I think that you'll see over the next 18 months, if that transition does continue, that it'll be a benefit in the long run to Franklin County.
Thank you, Lex, for asking that question. And I guess I would just want to kind of back up how the value of that as well from a recovery center standpoint. So for the 12 Turning Point recovery centers in the state of Vermont, across the state, that's a service that we also were using for people to be able to go to recovery meetings, to recovery coaching sessions and whatnot. And I think it was appropriate that the program was created because medical rides are covered by Medicaid. This was, while it's called non-medical to some degree, it really is medical. It's part of people's treatment plans and medical plans. So I just really appreciate the support on making sure that people can get transport to meet with their recovery providers and recovery residences. So thank you so much for that.
Oh.
Whoop. Randy, just so you know, your whiteboard is showing.
Whiteboard is showing.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on?
There we go. Okay, I think I got it closed.
Sorry about that. So much excitement for transport. We just whiteboarded it out.
Sorry, guys.
One of the things that so Senator Norris was pretty instrumental in getting $250,000 for the local, recovery residents. And I was on a conference committee where the Senate had put the money in the wrong bill. They put it in the capital bill, which is for state-owned buildings, and we were able to successfully get it put in the budget. But $250,000 is a pretty decent chunk of change to bring back to Franklin County. Obviously, I think all of us in this room would like millions, but in the state budget, I mean, we're usually arguing literally over, $20,000, let alone, 250. So I really want to, thank Senator Norris for working with the individuals like Kate's here. I know that to get that done, and that it actually got across the finish line. That's pretty significant. And then, last year and previous years in my former committee, which was Human Services, we were able to successfully support Spectrum, which is pretty big deal too. In corrections and institutions, there's not as much that we're doing. Obviously we have the correctional facility, but as far as community stuff, we don't have as much going on in our committee. But we do deal a lot with addiction issues, and those are always front and center. And I don't think that anybody, at least that I work with, downplays them and how significant they are and how much support we need to put in that direction in order to serve our community.
I can't figure out how to raise my hand, Melinda.
That's okay. Jump right in.
Wonderful. Talking about corrections, I am curious if, so originally there was, I believe it was $500,000 in the big bill to open a treatment recovery, I'm not quite sure about it, but a new facility for corrections that kind of bridges some gaps somewhere. And I'm a little unclear about how it plays out, because there was multiple different facilities that were in the big bill at one point in time this year. But I'm wondering if that specific corrections facility and the funding for that made it all the way through. Although I know we're not quite done yet, but if it is in the final version.
Well, the big bill was voted out several weeks ago.
You're right, correct.
Yeah, normally it's the last thing of the session, and this is a very weird session that we have to keep reminding new people that this is not what you should be used to. I'm not aware of that, and we did not talk about things like that. The main thing we've talked about in my committee about new is a women's facility, which is more like $100 million, and that's not going anywhere anytime soon. But it needs to, because the facility down there, well, just like, let's be honest, Northwest is not exactly a place that anybody wants to go to work, let alone live. And it's just a fact, right? I mean, they're dilapidated buildings. They're very dark, they're dingy. I know that the Chittenden facility, which is where the women are, is, I have not been there yet. We do get to go on tours, and I will be going there. But my understanding from everybody who's been is it's in pretty rough shape. And it's not really a great parcel of land either, so it's not like they can tear it down and build again. But they're having troubles, as is typical, especially in Vermont, that nobody seems to want it in their backyard, so there's problems and negotiations in Essex to try to get some, we own the land already, but to get the approval to be able to build over there. But we'll see how that goes. But as far as your specific question, I'm not aware of anything else. You said $500,000?
I think it was, and Candace might know more, not to put you on the spot or anything, Candace. But it was just
Because we also have a juvenile facility we're trying to build in Virginia, but they're also pushing back very hard. It's on our land. There's a whole, I'm not going to get into the whole weeds of it, but it's, basically they want the world in order to allow us to build on our own land. And then we have a Windsor facility, which is been closed down for years, that we've looked at, potentially either raising the buildings, or I don't think renovation is a possibility. I haven't been there yet, but it's turning that into like a not a halfway house. I'm trying now that we're doing this, I'm forgetting the words, but basically like a step down, for prisoners and for inmates. And
that is it. Yeah, that's it.
But that never got very far at all. So, but there are always talks, but I'm not aware of money being in there. But that doesn't mean there isn't. There's a lot of money in that bill.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
We should call Kate.
We lose Melinda?
We did lose Melinda.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, I was
disappeared. She just disappeared.
Where's Melinda? Search party.
Kate, I think
this is Kate Blue. Yeah, I think you're referring to the recovery campus that they were trying to get funding for, which was in kind of central, and I think that kept getting eliminated. It would bounce back and forth. There was 500,000 and there's 600,000, but there was a recovery campus that the Department of Substance Use was trying to create. That was last I looked at it.
Kate, I have a lot of confusion about it, because as I was looking for the appropriations for the recovery campus, we actually originally way back had put in a proposal for the RFI before there was an RFP on that one. I had stumbled upon something in the corrections, and then I tried to do a little bit of research and just made myself very confused. So I apologize if it was a confusing question, but I do think it was that step down facility that you were potentially speaking about. I don't know. I do not claim to know the big bill so well. It always confuses me, but I knew that there was something in there in multiple pieces. But thank you so much for that, Kate. Excited to see how that shakes out, because I don't think that there's any money for that project, but there is an active RFP. So.
Okay, and I see in the chat.
I would, I'm not sure if there's a lull there, but we have Melinda back, but
There's a question shoot on the chat. It says if the jail in Burlington was bad enough for the men to be moved, why would they move the women in?
Well, I have a even bigger question that I ask on a regular basis, because when they talk about moving the women out because it's not good enough, do you know what they talk about using it for?
The youth.
Men again. So I always in committee am the one saying, listen, if it's not good for one, it's not good for the other. And they're like, oh, we can renovate it and use it for basically a step down for men. I'm like, no, if it's not good enough, it's not good enough. And I've not been there, but if it's truly in as bad a condition as people say it is, and I have no reason to disbelieve that, then we need to build a $100 million facility for the women inmates, which is there's 120 or so roughly in the state, then it's not good enough for men to go back into either. So we need to definitely look at that. It should be, if it's not good enough, it needs to be torn down. And if anything, if we can use a smaller facility that we could build on the property for some kind of step down program, then that'd be okay. But like, from my understanding, is that building isn't good enough for anybody. So it shouldn't be used for either. If it's not good for one, it's not good for the other.
Awesome, thank you. Denise, I see your hand up.
Yes, I've actually been in the jail before they transitioned it, and it was disgusting. For one, I was pregnant when I got incarcerated, and it was the most disgusting thing ever. And they put me in a room, a glass room in front of the guards with all men. I was the only girl in the room. Thank goodness I knew a couple of the inmates, and they're like, don't worry, you're safe. But it was disgusting. There was poop. I also know men that were in that jail before they switched in. They're like, I wouldn't even put a dog in there.
Oh my God.
So it is disgusting. It's not feasible. And I don't think them moving the men up here to the Franklin County where the women actually were is any better of a facility. I think we need to come up with some type of plan to help these inmates and be able to make sure that they actually have the basic needs that they need. Just to be a human again, even though they are in trouble and they're doing their time, they still need some type of human compassion and basic needs.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And we have that problem in multiple facilities. I mean, there are two newer ones I have not been to, but I've seen pictures. They're much better, but I wouldn't say that that's, the ideal living condition. But Northwest is definitely not a great place. And you're right, Chittenden, I hear it all the time, but Chittenden is even worse. And so when they switched, put men up, men were in Salem's first, but when they did that whole switch, none of it makes sense. But that's, hopefully we can get ahead of it and actually get a solution in time. There are organizations standing in the way of building the new facility. They don't believe, one of the organizations doesn't believe anybody should be incarcerated, so they're dedicated to stopping any building. So we're like, well, okay, what do you think that 120 people, where do you think they're gonna go? So we definitely have to work through that, but hopefully there can actually be a solution, because you're right, nobody, no matter what the crime, deserves to live in those conditions. And it also, if there are crimes that are, we all have our moral values, but like if you did certain things, maybe you should never see the light of day. But other crimes that are rehabilitative, then how are you going to rehabilitate somebody that's living in squalor? I mean, it violates broken windows theory for sure. But it's no way to get people to re-examine life, if you will, and come back out on the other side with a better better view of life and better skills to handle life when they're living in absolute destitution, I guess. I don't know how to describe the place without being too graphic, but it's you did a good job. So it's not the ideal place, especially for rehabilitation.
Thank you for that. Does anybody else have any questions for our two amazing legislators that made it with us today? Any other questions or discussions?
I have another question. what can we do to help inmates stop being such repeat offenders? Because I know that there's one guy in Franklin County that every day he's getting busted for something and they just keep releasing him back into the public.
Yeah, that's a really hard one. We talk about this in my committee all the time, and our chair, who's been there for 40-something years, reminds people all the time that the laws are such that that's the case. Like, I'm not an expert. I came from upstairs, a different committee. I'm still learning the technical parts, but when the law is such that you can't really hold people, and that's the case in a lot of places where you commit a crime, the bail might be, I don't know, $50 or $100 or whatever, and you have to let him go. There's only a few, I think it's 13, if I remember right, there's only 13 crimes on a list that basically you can hold people without bail. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's the big 13, I think they call it. But other than that, if somebody can post bail, and it has to be not undue, I forget the term, but it has to be something that's affordable, and that's really not a deterrent. So we'd have to change the laws basically, and how that would work, and whether a judge would find it constitutional if you say, hey, listen, we're just going to keep you. I don't know, but it is a problem. I mean, people see it all the time, and they think, like the catch or release, and I definitely am, was one of them, and I still feel like the system is messed up, but I understand that the reason they're being released is because that's the way the law is written, and it kind of stinks because it doesn't help them and it doesn't help society.
Thank you for that. Megan.
I just want to say thank you. This has been such an informative time, and thank you for the collaboration and your transparency and practicality and all of this information. And jumping back to the transportation issue, you've got folks in this room that are absolutely willing to jump in and help find volunteers. Jillian at Age Well, they're experts. United Way, that's what we do. So I'm really happy to hear that you're looking at volunteers as a solution, and neighbors helping neighbors is the way we're going to get ahead. So I love hearing that, and please spread the word that we are here to help and figure this out, because we hear time and time again that transportation is really foundational. So and peer-to-peer is the solution to so much that happens in our world. So thank you for your time today.
One thing I want to say, and every time I come to a meeting, I do say this because it's true. Just last week, I had a conversation with a longtime legislator about how we had this meeting today, and she's like, "What do you mean?" And I told her, what the group was, and nobody, as everybody here knows, Franklin County is always looked at as and Grand Isle as the region that has the most collaborative groups that work together to better our community. And it's amazing to me that other parts of the state haven't caught on, but everywhere I go, when I talk to them about our, your guys, is not mine. I'm thankful for what you do, but you guys do all the work. That they like, no, we don't really have that, or it doesn't work as smoothly as how you guys work together. So I think that's something that you all should be very proud of, and I know that we are proud of you. And so that's all I wanted to say about that.
Linda, if I can jump in there.
Yes.
Megan, appreciate your comment about volunteers. One of the pieces that I struggle with going to Montpelier, and obviously the housing and a homeless issue has been ongoing for some time, hotel programs, etc. What I would say is, along the idea of what you said about neighbors helping neighbors and volunteers, and the piece where you are closest to what's actually going on in the community. Nothing breaks down the willingness of people to pay and share is the idea that I send my money to Montpelier to some nameless, faceless organization, or they take my money in taxes and then they take it and then they decide to either do a hotel or do a piece, and then, or whatever program that is spent on, and then it is sent back out and may or may not make it back to the neighborhood, or may or may not back. I do think there was progress this year in trying to address that it is not a statewide solutions are going to fix our homeless problem. The work that's actually done on the ground, if everybody that I know is willing to help a neighbor and willing to help somebody that's in trouble in their community. What they're not in favor of is when money disappears from them and goes to Montpelier. When it leaves the community, now I understand you have to collect it and send it back, but if the work isn't done in the community, it becomes faceless and nameless. And that person that was having trouble, or that person that is in our own business here, we're struggling with in Walnut Street and try to help them in different ways. As soon as that solution goes, the further away it gets, the more people resent it. The closer the solution, the closer the interaction, the more people support it, the more people are willing to do. And I had a person that I talked to quite a bit at the Vermont Department of Health. They knew every single homeless person in the county. They've been through the entire thing. It was back during COVID. One of my colleague, one of my neighbors, they knew every player and every family, every piece that needed to work. And where the system breaks down, in my view, is when it loses that human scale that I mentioned before, and it loses that neighborly touch. If I know that the work is getting done right in Franklin County, right in Swanton, right in St. Albans, we're far more likely to support it, and versus it goes to some Montpelier. See, so if Representative James Gregoire is on the phone and you know who he is and you can call him and you can talk to him, that gives a human scale. But if you're in Montpelier and it becomes those reps in Montpelier, the solutions break down and the money and the confidence in the program breaks down. So this group and the idea of how much sharing and information goes on really does make a difference in the confidence of being willing to fund the areas. And I just share that as a philosophy overall, that as soon if you think the solution is going to come from Washington, it's too far away, and that becomes nameless and faceless. Montpelier is too far away, it becomes nameless and faceless. But in Franklin County, or in St. Albans, or in Swanton, or in Richford, where the problems are, if the people are there, that's where the level of funding and the level of work has to happen. And I do think there was progress, although I do believe the governor will veto the most recent homeless hotel H91 that was passed. But the progress that was made towards driving it to neighborhood solutions as opposed to a one-size-fits-all across the state, I thought was progress. It's not there yet, but it's in the right direction. It has to have a human scale to the solution, or else it doesn't work, because it creates too much resentment. Just like that jail in Burlington is a jail in Burlington, not individual inmates. So I appreciate you indulging my a little bit of philosophy on it.
Thank you.
You guys didn't realize that Matt and I were so touchy-feely, did you?
I really appreciate you guys saying. Oh, go ahead.
Here's something I tell people all the time to follow up on Matt's, it's true, is first of all, everything's local. And I don't like the saying all politics is local, because I hate politics, but all solutions are local. And the closer to home they can be, the better. But something I always remind people of, and I know all of you know this, is we all want to help. Like, I don't know a single, I probably know a single person, but I don't know very many people who don't want to help, that don't want everybody else to do better, the society to do better, Johnny or Jill down the road to do better. Everybody wants everybody to do better. And like I said, there's exceptions. You always get some hateful person, but for the most part, everybody wants everything to be better. The problem is, the difference is how we solve them. One person might feel A is the solution, another person's B is the solution. And while we're debating those solutions, we should never lose track that really everybody that's involved, everybody around that table, everybody in the legislature, even even Matt and I, we all care very deeply, and we want a real solution. It's just a matter of, is my solution the same as Matt's, or is Matt's solution the same as Melinda's, or whatever. But it's never the case that nobody in this community should ever be like, well, Johnny doesn't give a damn, because I guarantee you Johnny does. And we just always should keep that, look through the world in that lens, that people do care. It's just a matter of what the solutions are, and then being able to sit down at a table or whatever and having conversations about the solutions rather than motives. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the way we're going to solve problems eventually.
Thank you for that, James. One thing I wanted to throw in too, just because it's so relevant to what we're talking about, and especially with our, our communities pulling together. So this is more around the judicial system, public safety, law enforcement. So anybody who's familiar with the SIM model, the sequential intercept model, it's nothing new. It's a federal model that's been around for years, but we have been newly over this past less than a year working on implementing it in Franklin County. We did an all-day workshop at Northwestern Medical Center last September, and there were 2 tangible deliverables from that. And some people, I apologize because you've heard me say this month after month, but for anybody that this is new for, there are 2 tangible deliverables. One was that our local restorative justice center would be the clearinghouse for the large volume of people who are going to court to get referrals over to them, because they do so many different services as they relate to substance use, mental health referrals, and people that are being intercepted with the judicial system. The other tangible deliverable was for us to start holding a monthly meeting, because when there was a community assessment or survey done across the state, the unanimous information that was passed on or collected was that there's not an appropriate opportunity or forum for continuous communication and information flow between providers and the Vermont courts. So that one my name was assigned to, and we did start that monthly meeting in March. We do hold it monthly via Zoom at noon on the 4th Wednesday of each month. And we've been fortunate that Judge Arms has been very active in attendance last month, or I should say, so last month, we did have somebody from the state's attorney's office. We've got a large number of leaders of various different providers that attend that. And that's the whole goal, is just kind of the idea of like the grassroots and pushing forward, and just knowing that as much as we wish that there could be like a bulldozer of solution, it's really going to be everybody grabbing a shovel to fill that hole that's been missing. So if there's anybody in this meeting or who watches it after the fact that is interested in attending the sequential intercept model monthly meeting, send me an email. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. Many people already have it, but I'd be happy to add you to the master listserv so you can be in the loop on this information flow that's been happening. And we did have Chief Lamoth and Chief Sullivan share last month about what they're seeing, their perspective. And with my role on the Police Advisory Board, we've seen there was a huge influx of calls last year and throughout the summertime, and that started to slow down a little bit in the fall once there were some changes in some of the laws. And we also see that there's still room for improvement, but at least that got us back to a bit of what the norm was historically, and we're still at that place. Like we're comparable with the volume of, or they are comparable with the volume of the calls they're getting in crime. It's not a whole big difference between last year and the year before. So we've been doing these comparisons. We do see now the call volumes going up a little bit. There's always things like weather and other reasons that it might go up or down. But as far as the judicial system and some of those laws, this is some of the stuff that we talk about in that monthly meeting. So just want to make sure if there's anybody who is, a leader at your organization, or just an active member of your organization that's interested in hearing and learning more, just shoot me a message and I can add you to our master listserv for the sequential intercept model. We did have Judge Morrissey and Scott Akes share about it at that St. Albans mini summit that we did in January. And then also at our larger summit on August 1st at the Champlain Valley Expo, we're going to have, again, an overview. We're going to be talking about that SIM model. And it's being implemented statewide. It's driven by the Vermont courts. But just want to put that on people's radar.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
If federal funding is reduced or pulled, how will that impact the state budget past the session, particularly in regards to funds already allocated or promised to organizations?
Well, the standard answer from leadership is that we will not know until that happens. You just don't. I mean, there's no magic amount of money that's sitting in a drawer somewhere. So we have to. We planned ahead, to try to make sure that what we were doing was covered. But there is no real. Matt could probably elaborate, but right now there is no thing. We'd have to go back and we'd have to readdress and try to move money around to cover the bigger needs. But there is no money in a bank somewhere waiting. So we would have to backfill somehow, and how is not known right at this moment.
Thank you.
Matt?
I would say that it's a little bit scary in that our $9 billion budget, about 38% of it is federal money.
Right.
So the chances of us backfilling or handling anything beyond actual emergency required activity is beyond the state's capabilities. That is that is a huge piece. It's like I said, 40% of the entire budget is federal money, and the biggest worry that I heard in the building regularly, of course, is all around any changes in Medicare. That's the biggest Medicaid, Medicare. That's the biggest worry. But we couldn't possibly fund any of, even come close to touching any of those level of programs. So in the transportation world, there's a thing called the Joint Transportation Operations Committee, the Senate, House, Ways and Means, Transportation. So should federal money, but I don't see that happening in the transportation world. In the other areas, yes, you're going to continue to see, I think, a lot of shakeup and pieces. What it will actually amount to, I guess the governor's advice of let's see what actually happens versus what's talked about. Let's see what actions are actually taken versus what is thrown out there versus what they actually do is been the governor's lead on it. And I think at this point, with the amount of stirring that goes on, that's the only way that I can look at it from a day to day. Because if you get locked into it every day, you're certainly going to struggle to deal with every single day's new story. I did want to circle back around. I think it was Lex had the question about the program, and I had said that it's amazing how much quicker I get answers. Ross McDonald, the public transit program manager for the Agency of Transportation, has already answered my email. I'm going to forward it through to Melinda. Perhaps she can share it, with some of the attendees and whatnot. But in regards to the recovery and job access rides, I've already gotten an email follow up on that with some additional information. So that is very quick. I know we're coming up against time. I did want to mention something that we did work on in our committee, and when the governor signs the miscellaneous motor vehicles law, there's a lot of concern around federal issues in terms of the real IDs. You may have heard in the news about what a real ID can get you into a federal building, not get you on airplanes, etc. Vermont has in their program right now, when you get a driver's license, which is real ID eligible, you have the ability to select male, female, or other, and an X, and you can do all to be any of those areas. But you, historically in Vermont, you can only renew your driver's license 6 months before expiration, 6 months before your birthday. And what we did, and we'll be passing this law and it'll go effective upon passage, that did originate or pass through our House Transportation, took some significant testimony on this, that people are concerned that once their due date or their renewal date comes, that should the federal rules change that are only require an M and an F, or only allow an M and an F, that the X box will no longer be eligible. But if you already have your ID, we can't take it away. I mean, we, the government, not me personally, but the government can't take it back. In effect, it's valid until it expires. So what we're going to allow when this law passes is you will be able to renew at any time and not be limited by the 6 months prior to your birthday. So if you're concerned about the 4 years of this particular administration, once this law passes, and it's passed, but the governor will sign it here in the next week or two, anybody that wants to go in and renew their license at any time will be able to update it. And that expiration, since we offer a 2-year and a 4-year renewal, you select the 4-year renewal, you will be beyond this particular administration's time frame. And you also will be able to, which we've only allowed in the past, the one renewal to pick 2 years or 4 years. You can renew as often as you will like. So you'll be able to return in your previous ID and pay the renewal fee, and you will be able to extend that out 4 years. So for people that find comfort in having their real ID with their gender marker, when the governor signs the miscellaneous motor vehicle law, you will be able to go in and you will be able to update or renew and be extended out 4 years. And then if you were to in a year, you wanted to do it again, or whatnot, you'd be able to. You can always make changes, I mean, address, weight, things like that, but the actual core of it is a renewal, and that would be changing your actual, the sex or the gender, I don't want to say the wrong pieces, but you'll be able to renew as often as you like, and you can extend it out to 4 years. And those are changes that we made this year for those that are of interest. It impacts right now. I will also mention that the DMV will go through their third phase of rollout of their modernization program. It starts in November. So this is a manual process until November, but license renewals will all be online after the next step of the DMV rollout in November. Registrations are already almost entirely online. You're not have to do it online, but the ability to do all your renewals and your almost all license renewals will be online, along with other functions at the next phase of rollout in November. It is a manual process from now until November. There are about 2,000. Well, they can't tell for certain because the system is so old and so bad. They tell me there's between 1,000 and 2,000 licenses in Vermont that select the X box. So we have no idea if it's 1,000 or 2,000 or what number it really is. But in November, moving forward, it'll all be automated, and we will be able to tell how many licenses are out there.
That's great. Thank you. So I'm going to have Amy has her hand up, and then we're going to close out just due to time. Amy.
So I have lots of things that you already know I'm going to say, but I just want to say a big thank you.
Yes.
You know, it's
Yes.
because in the world is a scary place for lots of people, and you in a policy, you as a legislature, as a policy, just gave protection to people who were worried that piece of it was going to go away.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost anything, and it gives people a 4-year window to kind of have their Vermont state license reflect who they are, and I think that's a bold and appreciated move, and I didn't know about it, and I'm a little teary-eyed, Matt, so thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for that work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I make one quick public service announcement?
Yeah.
I was on a Zoom call last night with about 20 or so other people with Senator Welch and talking about the big, beautiful bill. And we all know that all three of our 2 senators and representative want to kill this bill. But the question came up, what can we do to help them convince other people, other Republicans, that they need to kill the bill? And the one thing that came out that we all said, wow, if you have friends, even write or call or text or email both senators or representatives saying kill the bill, because they keep track of how many of those they get. And the more they get, the more powerful it is for them to argue with their Republican counterparts about getting the bill killed. The other thing, if you have friends or relatives that live in another state, whether they're Republicans or Democrats as senators, tell them to ask them to contact their senators and say kill the bill, because that's the best thing that we can all do to help try to kill that bill.
On that note, nicely done. I want to thank everybody so much for coming. Thank you to Representative Walker and Representative Guegua for coming. We really appreciate it. We know you guys are so busy. Thank you to everybody who showed up, and have a great rest of your day. Go get some sunshine.